All right, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to talk to you about how to land dream clients, or rather your first dream client, how to land a dream client with your first episode. So the reason why I want to talk about this is because I've been having discussions with a lot of business owners, consultants, coaches, and entrepreneurs. Let me make sure I have this pulled up so I can see you guys' comments too. I'm talking to a lot of business owners, right, that want to or thinking about starting a podcast, but they usually will say a couple of things. First thing they'll say is it worth my time? Right? Because if you're a business owner, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're an entrepreneur, you don't have that much time, right? You got to really stay focused on what's going on. You don't want to be trying to do a bunch of different things. So you always ask every single thing you do that's involved with marketing and running a business is always going to be about, is what I'm doing worth my time? What's going on, Teddy? What's going on, Edward? What's going on, guys? Let me know if you guys have any questions as I'm going through this. I'm going to be talking about how to land a dream client with your first episode. So a lot of people will say a couple of things. They'll say that podcast is a long-term game. It's about building for the long term. It's not just about trying to get immediate sales, right? They'll say it's not about getting immediate sales. And for a lot of people that are business owners, that's not going to work, right? You need sales much sooner than waiting out for a long time, right? You can't just be waiting for your 50th episode before you start bringing some sales, bringing some clients. So what's going on, Jamie? So I want to talk to you guys about how to actually start a podcast if you don't have one yet, and then start it in a way where you can actually land a dream client of yours. So what's a dream client, right? A dream client, in my opinion, is anybody out there that is going to pay you what you're worth. Okay, I'm not talking about people that want to just lowball you and not pay you what you deserve. The second thing is that they'll actually implement. Okay, they will implement the advice that you give them. If you're a coach or a course creator, they'll actually give you the stuff you need. If you're a consultant, to actually work with you to get results, because if they implement, they get you results. And what the results get you? Results get you more clients, right? There's nothing that speaks louder in terms of marketing than to get you have your past students get results. And so they pay you the money that you're worth. They're ready to implement, and they are there's urgency. Okay, they want to solve this problem that's in front of them ASAP, which kind of goes in line with implementing, right? You have urgency, you want to solve a problem, you're gonna be ready to implement. So let's talk about this. Okay, so this is what I believe I'm not even showing the screen. So this is what I believe are the three things that make a dream client. Someone that's ready to pay money, they're ready to implement, get you results, or get results themselves, which means that you'll be able to get more clients. And also there's going to be this urgency where they're ready to get working. So that is what I consider a dream client. So how do you land a dream client with your first episode? Okay, I don't want you guys to think about starting a podcast as a long-term game. It is a long-term game, right? In the sense that it does build your business, your authority, your credibility for the long term. What's going on, Charles? For the long term, but it is not just you can still use it to get clients right away. So how do you actually start your podcast with your first episode to actually start landing your dream clients? So as I said before, focus is important. Right? Focus for an entrepreneur is important. You can't just be going around doing a bunch of different things that don't actually bring in cash. So let's think about this. What makes someone want to work with you? What makes someone want to hire you? Whether you're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a course creator, what makes someone want to spend money with you? It's always the same things, which is they need to be able to know you, right? They don't know who you are. They're not going to spend money with you. They have to like you. One, a like doesn't just mean, hey, I like you as in like a personable way. Like means I like what you're about, what you stand for. I like the stuff that you're working on. I like the kind of content that you're putting out there. That's what. Oh, where did my thing go? That's what like means. Okay, know, like, and then lastly, trust. Right? Because even if you know someone, even if you like them, but they're just not trustworthy, they've stolen money, they don't have any good student results, the trust is not there, people are not going to want to hand over their money. Okay, so know, like, and trust all add to money. So the good thing about podcasting is that it gives you the ability to be known, right? You're present, you're out there. People are going to be able to like you and get to know who you are, get to know what you're about, get to know what you stand for, get to know what you care about. That's how they like you. What's going on, Monica? And then trust is all about if you're out there and you're a public figure and you kind of are vulnerable and you aren't trying to hide things, right? If you're doing a podcast, you go on a podcast for like 30 minutes, an hour every single day, there's no reason why somebody is not going to trust you, right? Or rather, there's no reason why if you don't have anything to hide, that builds in a lot of trust innately. What's going on, Kenny? Okay, so know, like, and trust are three keys to getting someone to work with you. So how do we use that information to make sure that our very first episode, right, episode number 1, is actually going to lead you to a client? So here is how to kind of reverse engineer this entire thing. So the first thing you want to do is go and first find out a problem that someone has, okay, a problem that exists inside your niche. So I want you to go and try to find a problem that is actually going to be a problem that a lot of your customers have, right? Don't go look for a problem that's only one specific use case. Go look for a problem that's a repeat problem, but a specific person is asking about it. A good example would be like, let's say that you are a business coach and someone is asking a question online somewhere about how do I make sure that I are able to file my taxes correctly for my business. That's one person asking a specific question, but it is a problem that you can imagine multiple businesses face. So that's the first thing. So the first thing is that the client must be someone that you must be solving a problem for, a client that actually wants to you must first find a problem that it was somebody out there needs a solution for. Okay, so let's jump back into this. So first of all, find a problem again that someone out there has a problem. The best way to do that is to go on Facebook. Okay, go inside Facebook groups. You know, like my Facebook group that you guys are in right now. If you're not part of that, make sure you join my Facebook groups. You want to first join a Facebook group. Go inside a Facebook group. And the best thing to do inside these Facebook groups is to go and look up specific keywords. So I want you to go inside a Facebook group and search a very specific keyword. The word is how, okay? How or how to. This specific phrase will pull up so many posts and very valuable posts, because the great thing about Facebook groups is that it's a community where people discuss things, but the true value of a Facebook group is that there's a lot of people in there asking for advice, asking for help. And the key word that you always see in a request for help is the word how. How do I do this? How to do this? How to do that? You know, it's always going to be about a question of how to do something. So if you're a course creator, you're a consultant, you're a coach, you thrive on these sentences, these questions, how to do something. Because if you can come in and show them how to do it, teach them how to do it for them, you have solved the problem for them. Okay, so first thing you want to do is go inside these Facebook groups, search the word how to, look for a post, okay, that's asking a very specific question. Look for something more recent. Look for a question that someone's asking about something recent. Now, once you have that, so this is all, again, supposing that you do not have a podcast yet. If you have a podcast, you can still use this. The goal of this training, this session that I'm trying to show you, is that for the very next episode that you put out there, whether it be your first episode ever, or it's an episode that you want to put out soon, the goal of it is to create an episode that's specifically an episode to attract the dream client, someone that's actually ready to work with you. So you go inside these Facebook groups, you look for the words how to define a specific problem that someone needs solving, and then all you gotta do is go and create the best episode, super in-depth, like in-depth episode. Okay, it's a super in-depth episode solving the specific how to give the answer in that episode. Give the answer, go super in-depth, basically make the best podcast episode on that specific question as possible. That's why you want to try to find a relatively specific question, because the more specific it is, the less likely there's going to be someone out there that already has an episode about that. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I wouldn't worry too much about like trying to find the most obscure question ever, because again, you'll see why in a second, but you want to find something that's specific, someone asking a very specific question, but also a question other people in the audience, or sorry, other people in your community might need the answer to. Now you go ahead and create that episode, super in-depth episode. You go ahead and publish that episode. So if it's your first episode ever, launch your podcast. Don't pause on making it perfect, what cover photo to choose and everything. That stuff is important in the long term, but no one cares about that when you're just starting out, meaning that it doesn't actually truly move the needle. Now, a couple people have asked me in this Facebook group, like, hey, what's a good idea for a cover photo? People have posted pictures of their cover photo. It's good feedback to get, but it's not the best use of your time. I used to do that all the time. I used to do that thing where I used to create websites and even business cards, like waste my time on things that matter but don't matter the most right now, right? It's like me focusing so much on step 10 when I haven't focused on step 1. Like, for example, it's like you're trying to travel across the country and you're worried about what paint job to put on your car rather than do I have the engine in the car. So this right here, the money that you can bring in from your podcast, that's the engine, that's the fuel that powers your car. Don't worry so much about the aesthetics and how it all looks together. That stuff doesn't matter as much as delivering value to your audience, and that is what moves the needle for someone that wants to build a business off of their podcast. Now you publish that episode, okay? Maybe it's your first episode, maybe it's your next episode that comes out. And then you go back inside that Facebook group. And I want you to drop a comment. Okay. Drop a comment in that exact post. This post up here, this post that you found, that specific how to. And don't put a link to your podcast. Don't do that. Because the thing is that the medium, the way that people communicate on Facebook, they don't want to leave Facebook to go listen to a podcast right off the bat. Because you can imagine, like, I'm on Facebook and there's really three different things that people do, that 3 different ways people consume content on Facebook. It's text based, right? Someone posts a text, a post that has text only. Image based. Okay, someone posts a picture of their family, posts a picture of their, I don't know, their dog, post a picture of a house they bought, post pictures of their cars. And third things, they post videos, like the thing you're watching right now. They post a video. Sometimes a combination of those 3 things, but very, very rarely do people spend time on Facebook consuming audio. It's just not where people go to consume audio. So what you would want to do is you go into these Facebook groups, you make a comment. In the comment, you basically summarize. I mean, maybe summarize is not the right word. You basically answer their exact question. Okay, answer the exact question that was in that to give them an answer to that how to. Now, when you answer that question, what you want to do is you want to hint at the fact that you have a podcast. Don't necessarily say, hey, listen to my podcast I talked about this thing, but answer the entire question first, okay? Give them a super long answer, fully in depth, which you should be able to do, right? Because you just recorded a podcast episode about it. Your podcast episode is probably like at least 10, 20, 30 minutes on that particular answer. You just almost like answered again, the same exact podcast content, but now in text form. And then at the very end, you say, I actually cover, I gotta get some more space here. You say something like, I actually talk more about this on a recent podcast episode. And then you want to also mention the episode name, and that's it. Now you sit back and you don't do anything else. Don't go ahead, don't post a link, don't do any of that stuff, because people are quick to kick people outside of Facebook groups for posting links at all. So don't risk yourselves and get kicked out of a group that has all of your dream clients in it. That's it. So the idea is that you're giving a ton of value, to that person that posted that question. And then in exchange, they're going to want to learn more about the kind of content that you have. If you saw a specific problem for them and you said they have a recent podcast episode about it, they're going to want to learn more about that podcast episode. That's when they're going to DM you, check out your profile. And ideally at this point, your profile has links to your podcast, has references to your podcast. Now you have attracted a dream client to your podcast, and you solved a very specific problem for them. Now I want you to keep on doing this. Okay, we're talking about, let's jump back here, we're talking about landing a dream client. Okay, this is someone, again, that's going to pay you. Where am I? Oh, did I miss? uh, someone that's going to. Okay, I missed it. I don't know where it went, but basically, a dream client again, someone's going to willing to pay you. They're willing to get you results. They're willing to put in the work to get results, and they have urgency to solve their problem. Okay, that's a dream client. Like they check all these boxes. Like, why would you not do everything you can to work with them? So now that you have solved that one problem for them by doing this method right here, Facebook group, look for the how. So that's how to questions. Um, Create an episode, answer that question in depth. You publish that episode, go back to the Facebook group, comment on that post, and you summarize slash answer the question for them again. This time in written form. This is not racing. Summarize it for them again in written form, and then just briefly mention that you actually have talked more about this on a recent podcast episode. Again, you've delivered value, and then they're going to want to learn more from you. They're going to DM you, check out your profile, and once that happens, that's when you start talking to them about the services, the coaching that you provide. They might just go back and listen to the podcast episode that you reference, and from there, your podcast should definitely talk about that podcast episode. Should definitely talk about your services, your coaching, your course, something that gives them a call to action to go then and purchase more from you. Now, that is how you land a dream client. You want to repeat this over and over again. So you don't got to worry so much about what kind of content to create. All you got to do is go look at what questions your audience is asking, go create the episodes for it, repeat this, rinse and repeat over and over again, and you're going to land a client, okay? Because you're solving a very specific problem. You're getting them to check out your podcast. And while you're doing this, not only are you likely to land a client very, very quickly, but you're also now building an audience of people that are your dream clients. So because you solve a very specific problem for them, they're going to subscribe to your podcast. And then maybe in the next episode, you solve another problem for them. You solve another problem, because the thing is, you know this, right? As a coach, consultant, entrepreneur, a course creator, everyone, for the most part, has the same exact problem. Maybe they have like 10 different problems. Maybe they're small tweaks to different problems they have, but everyone has the same problem. If you answer a question for one person, you're very likely to have answered a question for another person. And now you've kind of trapped them, quote unquote, trapped them in your universe where you're constantly creating content, solving problems for them. And that is how you turn someone that's not a podcast listener to become a listener and become a client of yours. Okay, so that's a process. You could even potentially close them at the time that they DM you. Okay, they DM you, they want to learn more about it. Something about having a podcast elevates your authority. I think we all know that. Having a podcast elevates your authority, which makes it a lot easier for you to get the sale. And if they don't DM you, get the sale, then they'll check out your podcast. They'll spend time listening to you, and then want to continue talking to you and working with you. So that is how you land a dream client with just one podcast episode. And just rinse and repeat this. Imagine you did this every single week. After like 2 months, you got 8 episodes of targeting 8 specific client profiles, really, because again, this solves a problem for one specific client, but it really solves a problem for everyone that's like them. Because the thing is, if you go and let me jump around, if you go and answer a specific question on this how to, you can do the same thing in other Facebook groups, or even that same Facebook group. Look for other questions that are very similar to this one. Do the same thing. You then again summarize or answer that question for them, and then mention that I actually talked more about this on a recent podcast episode. Leave it at that. Don't put a link to it or anything like that. They're going to reach out to you if they want to work with you or learn more from you. Do that over and over again. Because again, trust me, if someone asks this question once, this how to question once, you're going to find tens or hundreds of posts in that Facebook group or other Facebook groups that have the same question. That's a very similar question that your podcast episode covers. You talk about it, you answer the question, you mention that you have a podcast about it. That's how you start growing your own audience of podcast listeners. All right, so that is the training for today, to talk to you guys about how to land a dream client with your first episode. So let me see what if I see any questions coming in. I love to answer you guys. If you guys have any questions for me. Now, again, I think the things a lot of people think that I gotta have a lot of people believe that I gotta have a podcast strategy where it needs to nurture them for a long time before they become a client of mine. If you solve a problem, a very specific problem with someone that's asking for a solution, and you solve it for them, why would they not want to become? There's no reason why they could not become a client faster than how long you think it takes for you to nurture them through your podcast. All right, so I wanted to tell you guys about a couple other sessions that I have coming up, and you guys let me know if you guys want to learn about these things. I'm going to be talking about how to start a podcast that attracts your dream client in 30 minutes, meaning that if you don't have a podcast yet and you're thinking about starting one, I'm going to cover exactly literally 30 minutes, step by step, how to set up your podcast, your show description, choosing a podcast name, doing what to cover in a trailer episode, what kind of content to cover in your first episode, all designed to track your dream clients. I'm going to be doing another session here about how to build your email list full of dream clients with the podcast, because the thing is, a podcast is obviously great to build authority, build know, like, and trust, nurture your audience, but you always want to be able to capture their attention in multiple places. So getting them over to your email list is super powerful. We'll also be covering how to create an authority building podcast in just 1 hour a week through outsourcing. Okay. I spent so much time on my first episode producing it. Like I edited it, I put it all together, uploaded, I did all of that. And it took me like 10 to 12 hours the first time I did it. Not necessary at all. Outsource it. It cost me, I think, probably about 20, $30 per episode to outsource it. But I think everyone's time is worth at least 20, $30 to get 10 to 12 hours back. Because if you're editing your podcast, that's not podcasting. That is just, in my opinion, just busy work. If you want to do that, then you can become a podcast editor, which is perfectly fine. But if you're talking about growing your business, the only value you provide the only value you provide in creating a podcast as a business owner is creating the content, being the voice of it. Everything else, uploading it, putting together show notes, all of that, that doesn't need to come from you, meaning that should be outsourced. That should be delegated. So I'll teach you guys how to do all that. Also, I think a lot of people get held up. I had this problem too, where you don't launch a podcast because of imposter syndrome, thinking that you're not an expert. You're not, why should you have a podcast? Why do you deserve to have a podcast? Why do you deserve to have a platform? Okay, I'm going to be talking about that. We're talking about how to increase your prices using a podcast. How do you position yourself in a way where you can ask for higher rates because you have a podcast? I'll also be talking about how to create endless podcast content ideas that attract your dream clients and publish consistently. I think I've seen a lot of people worried about this, where you might come out with a podcast, you come out with a bang, guns blazing, you're doing like episode after episode after episode, then there's just fear that you're going to run out of gas and be one of those podcasts that don't have any episodes for the last year, right? So I talked to you guys about how the system I came up with to never run out of content ideas, and how to have a system that allows me to churn out content. That I've been doing this for 6-7 years and I never miss an episode. Six to 7 years straight, never miss an episode. There's even a stretch of about a year and a half where I was just on fire and I was doing like 2 episodes a week for a year and a half. Never ran out of content, never missed the dates, using the system that I will show you guys in a future training. We'll also be talking about how to build a powerful and successful network using podcasting. I told a story that I think is on my Instagram or on my in my email, if you have not signed up for my email list, where I talked about how when I went to school, I'm from Philadelphia originally. I live in New York now, but I went from Philadelphia to Boston, which is 6 hours away. Zero friends. I knew nobody when I went up to Boston, and I wanted to make friends, right? You're in college, you want to make friends. And I was like shy, awkward, didn't like networking, didn't like approaching people, introverted. Took a lot of energy for me to meet new people. But what I recognized was that I liked being around people, but I didn't like the idea of approaching people. I'm not sure if you guys resonate with that. You guys get me on that. But if you feel me on that, you know what I mean. But I did recognize that there was someone at every place, every party, every bar, every club that did not have to approach anybody. Everyone came up to them. That was the DJ. The DJ always had people coming up to them. So I learned that being someone that has a platform, being someone that just simply is in a position where you are the only person in the room doing this thing, and you have a lot of power over. You're literally, as a DJ, you're literally putting music out super loud, like music out super loud, and everyone has to listen to it. That puts you in a position of power. And I'm going to talk about how that has to do with podcasting. What that does have to do with being a podcaster, because it's very similar, right? You put yourself on a platform, you're in a position where people not have to listen to you, but people are listening to you, and that attracts people to you, so that you don't have to go and do networking yourself. Yeah, if you like networking, that's fine. I'm not saying don't do networking, but with podcasting, you can expand your network so much faster than going one by one, building a network slowly. And then more specifically, not only will you build a network from your listeners, but you also build a network of all of the guests that come on your show. Like I have a Facebook group that has I think 300 members in it now, full of my past podcast guests, and I can almost definitively say I am the least successful person in that group, which is a good thing, right? You always want to be, you don't want to be the most successful person in the group. There's that saying that if you're, what is it? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You want to be around people that will elevate you. So I have a Facebook group of all my past podcast guests. These are like 7-figure brand and business owners in there. They've been on my podcast, that they're now inside my inner circle. That's how I built a network, by having them on my show. We'll also talk about how to get more referrals using a podcast. This is super ninja stuff. This is how to get more referrals using a podcast. I'm super excited to teach you guys about that. We'll also talk about how to get 1,000 dream clients to subscribe to your podcast. So these are people that are that you would love to work with one day. How do you get them to tune in to your podcast, so that eventually, after hearing you week in, week out, they're going to want to work with you? How to get them to first subscribe to your podcast? How to get these dream clients to subscribe to your podcast? I'm also going to talk about the 3 different models of monetizing using a podcast. Now, this is for people that are this is basically it. I'm going to do a training on how to sell more online courses using a podcast, how to get more coaching clients using a podcast, and how to get more consulting clients using a podcast. So those are the kind of agenda of things I want to talk about in the next I guess few weeks of this kind of stuff. All right, so let's see. You guys have any questions? Edward says, "What equipment?" That is not Anchor. Start your phone. I used to have this. I used to have not passion, but I used to really want to get into photography. I was super into not photography. I was getting into videography. I was super into videography. I liked watching videos. I like watching people put together short films, and I wanted to do the same thing. And I had this goal at the beginning of a summer one day to film like a documentary or something like that. But I spent the entire summer researching equipment. What's the best camera? What's the best lighting? What's the best sound? What's the best sound equipment? What's the best boom mics? How do I piece all this together? And by the end of the summer, I had no documentary. I had a bunch of equipment, never got started. I think equipment is important later. I think if you focus too much on equipment now, a lot of people use it as a crutch to not get started. I certainly did for videography. When I started my podcast, I have an episode on my blog. If you guys haven't seen that yet, go to podcastingsecrets.co. I have a podcast I have a video talking about the best podcast equipment I ever purchased. And spoiler, it was a $30 Microsoft like Skype specific headset. And that's not what I mean. I use this for like $1,000 setup now, but is the best equipment I ever purchased because it was what got me started creating content, got me started building my audience, got me my first clients, once I got that, I got my advertising deals. And that's what kicked everything off by not letting equipment get in the way. That was 6-7 years ago. Today's even easier. Anchor app, using your phone, just do that. And a lot of people kind of complain about, oh, Anchor is not the best for this, best for that. What's worse than Anchor, for sure, infinitely worse, is having no podcast at all. All right, so don't get stuck on equipment. Just get the iPhone, or not iPhone, whatever phone you're using, cell phone you're using, download Anchor app, run with that. All right, so yeah, those are the few things we're talking about. All right, so if you guys want to learn more about how to land dream clients with your first podcast episode, how to grow a podcast full of dream clients that want to work with you, that want to pay you the kind of high rates that you'd command, want to build more authority within your business, within your niche through podcasting, then I invite you to click the link in this post to book a call, chat with me, and we'll talk more about your situation, your goals with podcasting, with your business, and if podcasting makes sense for your business. I'll tell you all about that, more about the programs that I offer, and if you're interested in pursuing that, then we'll talk more about it. I'll give you all the information you need on that call. Just book a call with me. Click the link in this post, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.